Hi everyone, welcome to the Unite Students channel. If you haven't already seen my face on here before, my name is Lois and I graduated from Manchester last year and I now own my own media production company, so I'm working as a freelancer basically. So my favourite year at university had to be hands down my final year, because even though I was still working really hard towards getting a good grade, I actually socialised still. I always thought that the final year was the most stressful and the hardest you ever had to work, but I was able to balance my work and social life surprisingly really well. And even though I was studying and eventually got a first, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just saying that if I can socialise and have a really good time going away on trips, going out during the week, seeing my friends, but also getting a first, then it's definitely possible for you as well. Okay, the first step to having a really good work and social life balance for me personally is to take a look at the bigger picture, look at your grades that you've got all the way up to where you are now, and ask yourself where you want to be at the end of the year. What are your realistic grade goals? Have your grades been pretty consistent and you're well on track for a first at the end of the year? Or are you heading steadily towards a 2-1 and you're happy to work the same level that you've worked? Do you want to work a bit harder? Are you happy to just relax because you've actually worked hard the last 2 years, last 3 years, however long your degree is? Whatever situation your grades are in, it's really helpful to actually have them written down to look over. And basically you can work out how hard you need to work. I know that that doesn't sound like the best mindset to have, but realistically, there is no point in working your absolute socks off and stressing yourself out to the point where your mental health is struggling to try and get a first if your grades actually realistically won't allow you. Now, this video is not me telling you what grade to get. Let's make that very clear. I just think it's important to have a good overview from the get-go on what is possible so that you can ask yourself how willing you are to work towards whatever grade you want. It's good to have an idea of what grade you want to go for, especially for degrees that are coursework based, because you can look at the marking scheme and you can say, right, I want to make sure I've got at least a 2-1, so I need to do this, this and this. It's as simple as that. So now that you have an idea of the grade you want to go for, it's so important to be on top of your time management. Now, for me personally, this all comes down to getting ahead of the game when it comes to your revision and your coursework. If you start studying early on, then you can reward yourself consistently with little mini socializing events, go and see your friends, all those kinds of things, rather than having to back out of social events because you've left everything to the last minute. Having little bouts of studying, revision, doing your coursework, whatever your degree entails, followed by rewarding yourself and doing all of that on a regular, consistent basis, is personally what worked for me. I also want to make it very clear in this video that not all these things will work for you. Everyone has a different way of getting things done. But this is what worked for me personally, and that's all the advice I can give really, is just from my experience. So I'm really sorry if you're not the kind of person that likes to get their work done early on. I know that some people only work under pressure, and that is totally fine as well, but these are just my personal tips, so just take it with a little pinch of salt. Another thing I want to talk about is something called the 80-20 rule. This is something that I still have to use to remind myself as a perfectionist to take a step back and draw the line under a project or the amount of time I'm studying. You might be like me and think that the longer you spend working on something, studying for something, the better you'll be, the more prepared you'll be. And to a point, that's true. But this rule states that 80% of the workload is done with 20% of your effort. Basically meaning once you get going with it, the bulk of the work is actually kind of easy, but that last 20% of the project is what requires about 80% of your effort. So if you're a perfectionist like me, or you're trying to get something as good as it can be, that last 20% of that project or the task, your revision, whatever, actually requires 80% of your effort, so a lot of your effort. So that's all those little details and the little imperfections that most people wouldn't even notice. But it's so easy to fall into that trap of spending so much time making sure everything is perfect, reading and rereading and getting someone to proofread and getting another person to proofread. It's just so much more effort for what it's actually worth. And that's a vital thing to keep in mind when you're studying and doing any sort of work for uni. Try to remind yourself that that last 20% of work, is it worth spending all this time on? Is it worth having a breakdown over? Probably not. But I know that that's the kind of thing that I would have a breakdown over, so that's why I'm saying it's really important to keep that in mind, because once you have it in your head, you can realise, oh, actually, I don't need to spend so much time on this. Maybe I can draw a line, maybe it's done. And when it's done, you can go out and party, you can socialise, you can have a drink, you can go and read a book, you can do whatever you want. But you have to draw the line somewhere. Talking about drawing a line, my university experience is over, sadly, and like I said earlier, my final year was my favourite year. I was just having the time of my life. But as an old, wise graduate, I just want to say that even though you're having to work for deadlines and revise for exams, which seem really stressful, and I know they are, trust me, you're probably not going to be able to have this much flexibility and this much freedom for a very long time after you graduate. You also most likely won't be living in such close proximity with your friends. And I know every year can be stressful. University is hard, and like, that's what a degree is. It has to be difficult. It has to be challenging in some way or another. But please do not think that you can't have a social life whilst getting good grades, because you can. You just have to find the way that is right for you. Please make sure you have fun, make sure you go out and meet new people, and just try and have the best time that you can. I hope somewhere in this video there has been some sort of graduate wisdom that you can take away from this video. If you have any other advice relating to this topic, please leave it in the comments. It'll be really useful. I feel like even though I'm a graduate, I still struggle with my work-life balance. It's something that we are gonna have to do for a long time still. And I've left all my socials in the description as well, so if you want to follow me on my freelancer journey, then you can. And either way, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.